More running. It's been a week now, and I feel like I have nothing left in the tank at all. We have 2 beautiful children, a daughter of 10, well, biologically she isn't mine, but my daughter in every other sense, and I'm the only real daddy she'll ever know. And a 4-year-old son. Things haven't been great for a couple of years, but not really bad either. We had our first separation on New Year's Day when we had a fight about her coming home drunk and falling asleep in the bathroom. She gave me the dreaded "I love you, just not in love with you" speech, which seems to be a particular favorite of those with a vindictive disposition. That lasted for 3 weeks or so, then she took me back in. She wasn't ready to take me back really, and over the coming months just carried on as she was. But helpfully supplied me with a list of things about me which continually frustrate and disappoint her. I did everything I could to please her, but no matter what I did it was never good enough. There was always something wrong with what I did. I tried to be what she wanted and it was starting to make me buckle badly under the strain. It was constantly playing on my mind. After weeks of gradual hostility from her, I finally asked her what was wrong, and got something along the lines of "I'm not happy and haven't been for 2 years. I don't see you as an equal anymore, and don't see you as my husband. You're more like a mate or my brother. Bonding feels wrong with you, affection feels wrong with you. You're a brilliant father and a loving husband, but I'm just not happy." I've supported her for years, brought up her daughter and loved her like my own, supported her career choices at the expense of my own. Sat in night after night looking after my children for years whilst she was out either with her job, or socializing, or out drinking, or visiting family or whatever. Loved her, worshipped her, tried my best for her. And it just wasn't good enough in the end. I feel like a complete shadow of myself. After years of trying to do nothing but please her, I don't even know who I am without her. I don't know how to be anything other than a husband and a father. And now it's all gone away. I have complete access to my children, I should point out, but not seeing them every day. Not being around them all the time is killing me. I miss them both so much I can hardly breathe thinking about them. I don't know what I think about my wife. I don't know how I feel about anything because I just feel dead inside. After years of living with what people have told me was emotional abuse, I still love her. I think. I'm all confused and can't make sense out of anything. I don't know what to think. I can't stop thinking about any of this. And the pain, the overwhelming pain that grips you inside, and it's every second of every day. From when I get up in the morning, until I finally exhaust myself from thinking and hurting and crying and shaking, only to get up and have to go through it all again the next day. And the next, and the next. I don't know what is going to happen. I asked her if she wanted a divorce, and she said eventually, perhaps. But not at the minute. I just need space and time to find out who I am and what I want. There is no one else involved, apparently, and she won't rule out getting back together either. I just don't know. All I know is this pain that is gripping me in my guts, and nothing I can do or think about can make it go away. I am terrified I am going to have to cope with this feeling for the rest of my life. I feel alone, and so scared about the future. I don't know if I can face it. I don't know if this pain will ever go away, or if I'll ever be happy again. My self-esteem is not so much in the toilet but rushing out of the pipe and mingling with all the crap festering in the sewer. My wife has had some seriously bad experiences, hard drugs at a young age, got into prostitution as a result. So she's very emotionally hard in one way, but very emotionally fragile in so many others. She's putting on a massive show of being all right at the minute. She's throwing a massive party at our house in a couple of weeks, organizing girly nights, making a point of taking her ring off and telling me, then announcing to all the world she is a single woman via that website of venom known as Facebook. As tactless and crass a number to pull as anything I could imagine. She's chatty and all right with me on the phone when we do speak, but the 2 occasions I've seen her in person she can barely acknowledge my existence. My mother-in-law is adamant we will get back together as she knows my wife has been crying her eyes out when I've not been there. As well she should in my opinion. I've stuck by through all of her emotional crap over the years. It feels to me like we've come such a long way since I met her living in a tiny house with just her and her daughter, to where she is now in a well-paid job, with 2 beautiful and very well-adjusted children, a dream house where we moved into with her parents so she could have them with her. And now she is all that my commercial value, if you will, is no longer of any further use to her. Comments. You realize that everything here points to her cheating, including the gaslighting and making you jump through hoops. It sounds like you've put her on a pedestal and acted like a complete doormat while she goes out drinks. And well, frankly, it sounds like has affairs. Why are you the one to leave the house when she's carried on like this? Shouldn't she go? OP responds, I left because it's a rented house with the bills split between me and her. And her parents. I could hardly kick them all out. Mainly it's for the children though. They have their grandparents around them as well as their mother. So it's more stability for them. She is a good mother to be fair to her. She never keeps still though, never happy with what she's got. Always wanting more. All the time. I want to try and keep things as amicable as possible for the children's sake. I don't want us to end up as some parents going through this do, where you barely speak and mess up the children's heads with constant arguing and all the rest of that bitter behavior. It isn't in my character to behave like that anyway. I'm trying to behave with as much dignity as possible. I only text her when she texts me first. I only phone the house to speak to the kids when I haven't got them with me, just to say goodnight and to tell them I love them and are thinking about them. I make no effort to speak to my wife at the minute and have no desire to speak to her the way I feel at the minute. I have a very good relationship with her parents though. They both appreciate the sort of husband and father I've been over the years. In some respects, I'm quite sure my wife does as well. I don't understand why she's so off with me in person though. This is what she wanted after all. I haven't broken down in front of her, made unreasonable demands, acted like a tool or anything of the sort. It's like she's trying her best to hate me. I think she wants me to break down in front of her and beg her and plead with her. And part of me really wants to, but I know full well that is the single worst thing you can do. Whether we're going to get back together or not. I too have depression, have had it for years, but only got diagnosed last year. It was when my depression was getting unmanageable that the cracks started to appear. She had a weekend job doing karaoke in a local pub, and every week she'd go out, not coming back until anywhere between 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Sometimes, in some right states, I of course would be at home with the children, trying to work out why I was feeling the way I was. And all I got off her was criticism because I wasn't doing anything but vegetating. I tried to snap out of it, but I was too anxious about the way our relationship was going by this point to actually focus on looking after myself properly. I tried to fit in with her friends and be a part of her social life only to be met with, well, they're my friends, not yours really, and was constantly made to feel like I didn't fit in with this part of her world and started to feel like she was ashamed of me in some way, like I wasn't good enough to be her husband, and people couldn't work out what she saw in me. Whenever I mentioned this, she just dismissed it as some form of weakness on my part and saw it as her having to pander to me in some way. She has done everything she can to break my heart and make me feel absolutely worthless. And yet I still want her back. The pain of it is ripping me apart. I felt a bit stronger this morning, went to work, though with a very heavy heart. She phoned me up to see if I could have the children tomorrow as they've been missing me. No problem there of course, I'd love to see them whenever I can. Looks like for the time being I'm going to be stopping over the dream house every other weekend when she's working. She does shift work at nights, as it's an ideal time for me to spend an extended period with my children. And also my live-in mother-in-law simply cannot cope all weekend with 2 children who run riot. She has a chronic bad back you see. My wife seems to be going the same way and has been suffering arthritic-like symptoms and chronic back pains for the last 2 years. Last time I saw her I asked her mother how she was doing, which I got pulled up on over the phone. You can't make my mom feel like she's in the middle. Anyway, I'm absolutely fine. Nice one. Right off 7 years with a click of your fingers and not one jot of remorse about it. I don't know whether to believe that. I'd probably get angry if I wasn't so numb. It's one thing to get what you want. I've agreed to give her space. I haven't demanded anything unreasonable. I'm determined to be civil. So this passive-aggressive hostility I just do not understand. Does she actually hate me? I don't know what to think about it at all. She admits she still loves me and will always love me. She says she doesn't ever want to go through her life without knowing I'm there for her. Albeit as a friend. She says she values and cares for me, but no longer in that way that makes her look to me as her husband. She also says she resents me for being a bit of a dreamer and not practical enough. Even though it was me who basically reared the children whilst she was out improving her career or on one of her many social gatherings. I was round the family home the other night for a sleepover with my babies. And it was all genial enough and even affectionate enough with my in-laws being there and everything. My father-in-law, who I have always had a close relationship with, told me she isn't coping anywhere near as well as she's making out. Even though she is a pretty hard woman and has made it clear she's trying to move on. But it's also conflicting for me. On the one hand, I'm getting all this what I do is my business. What you do is yours nonsense. And on the other, I'm getting I still love you. I always want you in my life. I don't think she knows what she wants at all, to be honest. I think she's going to find the grass isn't greener either. But even so, I feel like I'm living in 2 different realities at the minute. I just don't know what to think. I'm full of hurt and pain all the time and I can't stop thinking about her. I can't stop crying and nothing seems to make the pain go away. How do people get through this? I feel like I'm going to have to go through this the rest of my life and I don't know if I have the strength to do it. My STBXW actually had the nerve to ask me for a quickie divorce done on the internet. I literally cannot understand the crass mentality. The total lack of class. The idea that she can just wave a magic wand and have it torn up via a few clicks of a button. She doesn't see any need to get solicitors involved. Well, I'm quite sure she doesn't. I, on the other hand, am quite happy about this news, as it means she has an inkling of just how much she shot herself in the foot. I've had an off-the-record chat with a family law expert who is a family friend, and she assures me my STBXW is going to have the absolute shock of her life in terms of maintenance payments. I'm going to do what is morally correct in terms of finances, honor certain debts in the name of keeping it amicable. But it's a good feeling to know that inside the velvet glove is the cold hard iron of reality should it need to be wielded. I don't understand how someone you can spend a great portion of your life with, the mother of your children, can reveal themselves as such a thoroughly loathsome individual. And you've never noticed they were like that the whole time, trying to be noble, feeding the good wolf if you will. It's so hard in the face of cold and intentional indifference. I'm not out revenge, but I hope in my heart of hearts there will be a day of reckoning for every second of this agony I am being put through as a direct result of one person's total selfishness. Days later, she now has another man. Nothing more than a shag piece, but she's going away to France for a weekend away with him. An old friend from my school days was what I was told. Nice one. This bloke, however, has already been around my kids as he decorated her bathroom around a week ago. And now, out of the blue, they are off for a weekend together. I was going to be amicable about this. I was going to be decent, honest, and noble. Now, let the dogs of war let forth. Nobody screws around with me and gets away with it. Nobody. This is a situation I need closure from a SAP. I need to walk away knowing I've done everything I can do to be right by myself. No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more Mr. Let's be friends. I'm done. After this, now is the time to unleash hell itself. Screw being amicable. This now officially war. God have mercy on her, because I won't. I went round there yesterday only for her to tell me she already did the deed last week. I went ballistic and threatened her with all sorts, made one hell of a scene, and was pretty much as vindictive as someone can get under such intense and unnecessary provocation. Then she burst into tears and said that being with this man has somehow blown up in her face. I didn't get the details. She's had a massive falling out with her sister and they are not on speaking terms. Again, for whatever reason. And basically, she's had a week from hell. I thought I'd enjoy this, but I didn't. I calmed down and told her that I will always care about her and will never do her a bad turn. I outlined my plans in terms of a settlement which are not only fair but actually generous towards her, though it is money I can afford, as opposed to what I have to pay her, and told her I'll always care for her and be there for her. Which is true. She told me that I will always be the great love of her life and that she cannot replace me. Crumbs from the loaf, I thought, but took it with good grace. This morning, of course, I was numb from grief and hurt and went into a state of shock about her admission. I literally could not move my legs and must have vomited 7 times in an hour. Absolutely horrific day. At times like this, I don't know how anyone gets through this. Yesterday I had to phone up my best friend to talk me out of doing something very stupid. I am in absolute agony. I've taken so many punches to the gut in such a short space of time I am literally reeling. 2 weeks ago, my STBXW told me she'd hooked up with an old school friend via Facebook. Then she told me he was taking her to France for a long weekend, but it isn't something I should worry about because I've already done it. And he's just a mate who scratches my itch. Now he's a regular round my old house, doing little jobs, but that again is okay because we only do it when you've got the kids. Otherwise he sleeps on the sofa to protect them from what's going on. How sensitive and classy. Following a string of text messages she sent me at 4 a.m. on Sunday. He may or may not now be my boyfriend. I don't know, that marriages end and I need to grow up, and my personal favorite. I will always love you. My head is completely and utterly screwed now. A month later, had enough of being asked about, lied to, manipulated, gaslighted, and generally treated like something you'd scrape of your shoe. Likewise, enough of the rage episodes, temper tantrums, actively using the kids against me now. Enough. Saw my brief last Thursday, and as all me and my STBXW have as a couple are liabilities. As a direct result of her reckless financial stupidity over the years, half of which I didn't even know about till she informed me of certain things 2 weeks ago. And so my dear STBXW is basically going to have to pay for her own mistakes, and I am not responsible for her crap, legally or morally. And she is going to have a letter stating this turn of events within the next few days. I expect an unholy ruck to come of it, but frankly I simply do not care anymore. Anyone who treats me the way she has done can go roll one and smoke it. Emotional blackmail, threats, rubbing my face in how happy she is with her wonderful new man. He's welcome to the emotionally liar. Good luck to the both of you. Me, I'm shortly to have a massive upsurge in income, minus child support. But at least I won't be paying over half of my monthly wage keeping madam in false eyelashes and hotels with the OM. I await the inevitable holocaust with cold indifference. I'd describe it more as a cold shutdown kind of fury. I have enforced a no-contact rule with her. Well on my side anyway, and now refuse to have any conversation with her via any medium that does not directly concern my arrangements with my children, and those are kept to the bare minimum. She's utterly toxic, and though I still feel the pull to contact her at times, I steel myself by remembering any number of times she had me in a right state by her behavior. And yes, the less you see or hear of your ex, the easier it gets to function and to start pulling some pieces of yourself together. But I genuinely believe that no contact is absolutely crucial. 2 months later, an update, and a little encouragement to those who are finding themselves where I was 6 months ago. Well, it got worse before it got better. My ex was being phenomenally callous and low. Even I was shocked at the depths she seemed prepared to sink to. No point going on about it all now. Suffice to say, I hit rock bottom. I thought I was literally losing my mind. Somehow or other I managed to get through that period. Day to day, and sometimes 10 minutes to 10 minutes. The hurt, the pain, the humiliation, the flaunting of the new man in front of my face. Horrible phone calls at all hours of the day and night demanding money and telling me how useless I was. I just reached a point where I had enough. I instructed my solicitors to start playing hard. I thought a good place to start would be to see exactly where I stood with regard to finances, and rigidly stick to not giving her a penny more than she was due. Naturally, she hit the roof, tried everything from threatening me to emotional blackmail. I stood firm, told her to stop calling me, to take it up with my solicitor, and that I wouldn't take any more of her crap. That shook things up, and that was the start of my recovery. I finally learned to put up boundaries, very clear boundaries, about what I will and will not tolerate anymore. I started feeling better. I started getting my confidence back, slowly, but I could feel it. I started enjoying my time to myself. No more hassle. No more stress, no feeling like I was living in a war zone and every day was like navigating a minefield. I started enjoying the female attention I was starting to receive, the fact that I got my own little social life back on track, spending time with friends, and seeing how well my children were flourishing with me away from that horrible marriage. My daughter threw her arms around my neck a couple of months back and said, "It's so nice to have my daddy back." I had come back from a horrible place, not just the aftermath of the split, but years' worth of emotional abuse. I hadn't realized just how bad an effect being in such a horrible marriage had been having on me. And now, well, I've recently started a new relationship with the most kind, loving and affectionate girl I have ever met. She's so different to what I had been used to. We just completely click on every level. And I couldn't believe I could be this happy. Ironically, my ex's life has started to take a downward turn for the worse. Nothing seems to be going right for her. Tough crap. I told her to stop calling me unless it was about the children, that she made her own bed and can now lie in it. Very satisfying, as I meant every single word of it. My point being, to those of you who are going through hell and back right now, I stood where you are now standing. I know what it feels like to think things will never get better, and you'll be carrying this pain and hurt for the rest of your lives. You won't. It gets better eventually. You won't notice it at first, but it does. You will get yourselves back. You will get through this, and it will be so much better than before you won't believe it. You'll look back on these times and feel a profound sense of relief that you went through it, because what you get on the other side is something well and truly earned. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd be happy again, let alone find anything as wonderful as this. And to have the peace of mind I have now. The pain is temporary. Feel it, grieve the loss, work through it day by day. You'll get there in the end. It's all worth it. I'm rooting for you all. Just know it will be your turn sooner than you think. She is classic borderline or NPD. She was incredibly messed up. I did the whole night in armor on a white Charger bollocks, and got repaid by being slung aside like a piece of chewing gum that lost its flavor. Worse, I felt like I deserved it. That's what that kind of woman can do to your head. These days, if she told me it was Tuesday, I'd check the calendar. Back then, I believed every word she said, especially if it was to do with my shortcomings. She hates herself profoundly. She changes everything regularly, hairstyles, houses, cars, rearranging furniture, and apparently husbands, boyfriends too. I laugh when I see her with her new man now. She does the whole devalue and discard things so classically, and she can't see the pattern. He's going to go the way of all men in her life, and I simply don't care anymore. I used to stress about it from the point of view of our kids, but they have all the love and attention and stability they need from me. I can't control what goes on in her messed up head, and it isn't my responsibility to give a damn either. From now on, I take care of my own business, my family, my kids, my girlfriend. She can take a running feck up herself, leave them to stew in their own baggage. She had 7 years out of me. She isn't getting a second longer. Get on with life. It's all out there for you. Don't let one psycho define you or drag you down. A year later, me and my wife split up about 2 years ago after her dropping the bomb on me. Within days, she was seeing someone else, and her dealings with me were some of the most spiteful and brutally inconsiderate you could imagine. I was a total mess, but I turned it all around. I became a better father, a better friend, a better all-round person because of the split. I discovered depths of resources and character I never knew I had. My split worked for me in ways I could never have imagined at first. After about a year of separation, we tentatively reconciled, and have been going stronger than ever for over a year now. Now I don't come here merely to convey this news, but to help anyone who is just starting out on this road. A lot of the time people forget about this place once they've moved on, which is fair enough. But it doesn't give this forum much in the way of a different perspective from people who have gone through the process. Or at least it's what I thought at the time. I know there's a forum for reconciliation, but it looks more suited to low-level romance fiction than any actual useful advice. Obviously, I cannot guarantee reconciliation, or even that anything I have to say is useful to everybody. But I found out a few things, often the hard way. And I think it important to reassure people on here, people in a whole world of pain, anger and frustration, that however you feel right now, that it feels like you'll be this way forever, and that you'll never be able to get your life back. I am here to tell you Will OP's advice to all. Negative stuff included brooding on her for days on end, not being able to let it go, replaying painful scenes in my head to feed my victim status, allowing her to dictate every outcome in the early stages of the split, drinking insane amounts of everything in sight, continually getting sucked back into the web by engaging her in text wars, which she didn't always initiate. Usual stuff. Positive things were all process-based. Things I was developing instead of things that I did, if that makes sense. Working out who I was again, what I liked, didn't like, what made me happy. Reevaluating my priorities in life. Letting it go. Stop dwelling on the past, realizing that even difficult decisions gave you something back, living in reality again. Rediscovering my, as it turns out, substantial backbone. But the most important one was coming to understand that my sense of self-worth can never again be bound up in the fate of one individual. The best thing you can do is try to relax. Hard, I know, but I got hold of some hypnotherapy music and played them as I was trying to sleep, and they did help a lot. Also, practice breathing properly, right from the diaphragm, helps you to keep calm and centered. My only word of caution is not throwing yourself straight into something that consumes you, as you miss the comfort of being defined by something. You are going to feel exposed and vulnerable, but you need that feeling to keep you honest about who you are. Don't suppress anything, and be honest with yourself, even if you suspect what you are thinking is unpleasant. You'll find out some things about yourself you won't like. That's fine, it's a healthy impetus for change. Truth was, leading up to the reconciliation, I simply didn't care about any of it anymore. All the pain, hurt, recrimination, I let it all go. It had got to the point where I was making myself feel ill every day, and I literally just had enough. Resentment is like drinking a bottle of X and expecting the other person to pass away. I came to realize that there is a point where your ex isn't hurting you anymore or screwing up your life. It's known you yourself who is doing it. It seemed strange to me that, having gotten out of a horrible and damaging situation that I was now, of my own free will, carrying on her job for her. And so, I thought about it, and gradually my thoughts and my feelings started aligning. So, she has another man, so what? Knowing what she is like, is she now going to be living in some bloody domestic paradise? Or is she going to be repeating the same mistakes and end up dissatisfied, alone, and miserable? Why was I romanticizing her other man for her? Was he going to be so much better than me? Good luck to you, madam. I thought, nope, this isn't going to work out. But frankly, I couldn't give a crap anymore. She wasn't my problem, nor my responsibility. And I realized that I felt fine. More than fine, I felt great. It's been about 6 months by now, and I'm sick of fighting, and stressing, and thinking about her. Good riddance. So, I phoned up my solicitor, had a chat, left her with instructions to inform madam that as of now I am paying her child support for my son, and that all other financial arrangements will be settled by a judge. I canceled all my direct debits pertaining to anything I was still paying out so she could roll in Clover at my expense. Set one up for the child support. Sent her a text informing her that I am no longer paying for your lifestyle. Your boyfriend now has that privilege. My solicitor will be in touch regarding how you may reimburse me for the previous months. Shut my phone off for 2 days and went to the pub to watch the football. Every time she tried to contact me over this, I just referred her to my solicitor and reminded her that this was what she wanted after all. Nothing more, nothing less. She tried to initiate tit-for-tat exchanges, but I refused to bite. In the end, I just went dark on her. No contact of any kind. No texting, only about the kids. I used to receive reams of them, so I got a disposable mobile phone and told her I had a new number, and just picked it up to text about arrangements for the kids and deleted everything else without reading it. That was it. Well, for me anyway. Of course, what really tore it for her was when I got a new girlfriend. Now that was like a load of crap being dropped on her. As she told me a few months later, I had to find out about her new man via oblique hints on Facebook or via third parties, and still haven't gotten a straight piecing together of events that are consistent. Not that it's important to me per se, but it does highlight the chronic need for a wayward spouse to never, under any circumstances, be seen as the bad guy, hence the lying about things that are obviously preposterous. Anyway, to wrap it up, my oldest friend passed away February last year. I was being tentatively civil to my ex by this point, still largely ignoring her and quite indifferent to whatever she was doing, but I noticed the children got a bit anxious around me if the subject of their mother ever came up. So I thought I'd follow the example of Switzerland and remain diplomatic, though remote, around her. She was starting to tell me how much of a hard time she's been going through around now. But I shut it down every time. I didn't care, not my problem. I was engaging in a whole new world, one where I could make bacon sandwiches at 3 in the morning, where I could go to the pub after work and stay as long as I wanted, one where I would hop onto a train and get off wherever I fancied and go walk around, sometimes with the kids, sometimes with girlfriend, sometimes on my own, and much better on my own to be honest. The girlfriend was starting to annoy me, clingy, desperate for reassurance, very happy to try and please me, all the things I'd been doing to my ex when we were circling the drain. Ironic, isn't it? And an eye-opener of huge proportion. There are few finer experiences than hopping onto a half-empty train in the autumn sunshine, stretching out one's feet, uncorking a bottle of white wine, and cracking open the Guardian. If you could smoke, I would have thought myself in heaven. Anyway, his funeral was the first time we'd spent any time together in the same room since we split about 7 months earlier. She tried to be all chatty with me, and I didn't want to know. I was courteous, but aloof. I was at the bar post-service, really needed a stiff brandy after that, and she came up to me going on about how one of the other attendees was hitting on her. I just said something like, well, go and shag him then if you want. What you do is none of my business. And I meant it. She knew it. She got a bit upset. I wished she'd leave. I was here to say goodbye to my friend, not put up with her histrionics, and told her as much. Amazingly, she shut up, actually looked abashed, and became pretty good company after that. Like we used to be when we first met. Though I had to shut her down a couple of times if she started talking about things not interested. Talked to my brief. So, things progressed from there. We started speaking more as friends. I even took her out for her birthday with the kids, their idea, as they were happy that Mummy and Daddy were getting on finally. It made a huge difference in them. I was enjoying myself, but she looked really uncomfortable and a bit haggard. Said she wasn't sleeping well and felt things were getting on top of her. I didn't ask, didn't want to know really, none of my business, and my life was just fine as I wanted it. I'd gently broken things off with the girlfriend and was genuinely happy. She picked up a bit when she heard that, but there was still a strange vibe. She was very withdrawn and I was the bubbly one. Total role reversal. Then she came round mine one day soon after that, had a massive breakdown in tears, said how sorry she was, how she screwed everything up. Never realized how much she missed me, how much she still loved me. Had had a terrible time with her boyfriend who turned out to be an aggressive control freak who she'd made a huge mistake with. Yes, you did, I thought. I told her, rather coldly, what was on my mind, and let her know in no uncertain terms exactly what she did to me, and what I thought of her back then. Not a pleasant experience for her, I'm afraid. We ended up sleeping together, how very cliché. I tried to pass it off as a mistake, shouldn't have done that, but felt sanguine about it. Very nice it was too, odd how you can miss someone, but still had massive reservations. But we started doing more as friends. Basically we were back to courting without realizing it. Or dating, I believe the word, as if over the pond, and it sort of snowballed on for a few weeks, and then finally, without a great deal of fuss, I packed my bags again, put my wedding ring back on, and went home to my wife and kids. Anyway, going back on point, the hardest, or most difficult, part of a reconciliation is the ease with which you can slip back into old patterns. You have to watch out for that, if for no other reason than it didn't work out that way the last time. I mean, I went through quite a lot, and that seriously changes a person. In my case, it simply wasn't feasible to slip back into my old routine. I hated the old routine anyway, but was too much of a people pleaser then to do anything about it. It was all about her, never me. It's different now, but the main thing is to find a rhythm that suits you. Your changes will be hard-won, and you shouldn't give them up. Remember, this is what has reignited your wife's attraction for you. So if you want it to work, you'll keep hold of your emotional self-sufficiency. I found that my wife would try to crap test me, prod me with words or behaviors to see which way I'd jump, or if I could be broken. My advice here is to come down on her as hard as possible. She pulled one stunt on me which would normally have had me scared witless she wasn't happy and was going to leave. This time I just told her I will not tolerate this kind of behavior and walked off to the pub. I went dark on her, and 2 hours later an apology by text, and no repeat of that incident. She has tried to threaten me a couple of times with I'm not happy with 1, 2, 3 and it needs to be addressed or else kind of thing. So, I bat it right back at her. I'll address those things, but so will you. Blackmail me again and I'll walk off for good myself. Don't stand for it. Stay strong. Don't be manipulated, don't repeat your mistakes, and always be kind to yourself. Comment, maybe one of the strongest OP of all time. You guys can learn something from this guy. And check out the other recent videos. I've been uploading more on this channel. So sub and wait for that second video of the day.